hi everyone, welcome back to another tutorial of Salesforce Makes Sense. This is Himanshu and we are continuing our Lightning Web Components masterclass. So in the last tutorial, we talked about imports, where we understood how to import static resources, how to import labels, SVGs, current user information, locale, internationalization, form factor, and all of this stuff, right? So we are now comfortable importing stuff, and now what we are going to do is understand a very important, more like the crux of the framework, which is the life cycle. Right? So life cycle of a lightning component, this is where I want to talk about what really happens behind the scenes when a lightning web component is loaded. And you need to understand this because this is where you'll be able to put your certain set of activities, events and actions in the right hooks. Right? So each lightning web component can be considered like an actor who comes on stage. Now the stage is the browser. He performs and then he leaves. Right? So you can consider LWC component as an actor, all right, who's about to perform some kind of stage theater. So just understand the sequence of things that are going to happen here, and then I'm going to associate and kind of put an analogy similar to how we have been doing it for the remaining topics. We'll try to link it with the life cycle of a LWC. So what happens initially? The actor enters the green room. The green room is where he prepares, right? He receives the script, he prepares mentally. No makeup, no costume, just understanding what he has to do, right? That's the first thing that happens. What's the next thing? The next thing is the actor walks onto the stage, the lights are on and the audience can see the actor, right? So he's still not started performing yet, but he has gone onto the stage and all the lights are on him or her, and the audience is also patiently waiting to see the actor perform, right? So the actor is going to place all of its props, adjusting the costume and check everything is perfect before starting his dialogue delivery, right? This is more like the prep work that he does right before starting the actual bit. And then he goes ahead and does his script, and after he's done, he leaves the stage after the part, removes the costume, turns off the lights and goes back to the green room, right? So the set is completed. There could be a scenario wherein the actor messes up on stage, maybe forgets a dialogue or does some sort of malfunction, the costume malfunction or any kind of issue that could happen on the stage. There's a mess up that happens. So in that case, what happens is that the director makes a note and he fixes the script or whatever is the setting. All right, so all of this nonsense that we discussed is now going to basically relate you how LWC lifecycle works in the very next slide. All right, and this is where hooks come in. Right? What are lifecycle hooks? Hooks are basically all the backstage actions or basically things that happen behind the scene that you do not see in front of you, but they happen before, during and after the actor's performance. And when we say actor's performance, I mean LWC component being loaded. All right, so any kind of lightning web component that you have to load that is going to work on some sort of functionality, there are certain things that has to happen before it loads, during it is loaded, and after it is done. Like all of those things are basically called lifecycle hooks. They are backstage or basically back-end actions. Right? Now what are these hooks? Let's understand in detail. The first thing, now you'll be able to relate it. The actor gets the script. This is where the constructor comes in. All right, the constructor is the first thing. This is the first method called when the component is created and you cannot interact with the DOM yet, meaning you cannot interact with the component yet. All right, what is connected callback? This is where the actor steps on the stage. This is where the audience can actually see the actor, meaning the component is kind of ready. So this particular hook is called when the component is inserted into the DOM. This is a great place for setting up things like, any kind of data that you want to fetch, any kind of timer you want to put, any kind of listener you want to put, all of that can be done on the connected callback. This is where the actor is on the stage, getting almost ready to do his thing. All right, rendered callback. This is where actor finishes the scene setup, meaning all the costume, lights and all the microphone stuff is ready. Meaning every time the component is rendered or re-rendered, the DOM is fully available here and the rendered callback is called. All right, what does it mean by rendered or re-rendered? Remember we looked at @API and @track variables. What really happens whenever a value changes, it gets reflected on your screen. That is a re-rendering, right? And whenever it initially loads, it is rendered. That is what it means here. So when the actor is done with the scene setup and ready to deliver, the rendered callback is called. Meaning after the constructor, the connected callback and the rendered callback, this is where the actor is going to now start performing right after this bit is done. Make sense? right? Now, once the components work is done, all that you wanted to do, and you're going to, let's say, close the browser, or maybe, you know, switch to a new tab, the disconnected callback is going to be called, which is the actor exiting the stage. Now, this is called when the component is removed from the DOM, and it is perfect for doing things like, you know, cleaning up your memory, any kind of timers or listeners that you have to remove, you can do that here. Very, very rarely you're going to use it, but you might want to use it if you're doing some sort of external collection. All right, but just the crux is here, these three things right here, and the most important part is the connected callback, because this is where you are actually ready to put in your basic data, like, you know, fetching the data or any kind of load related activities on the component that you have to do. You're going to do it here. There could be a scenario where the actor messes up, forgets their line. In that case, the error callback is also available, but in LWC terms, this is only called when the child component, if it is a parent-child relationship in a component hierarchy, when a child component throws the error, in that case, the error callback is called. Okay, this contains the error in the stack trace. All right, now you must be thinking, Himanshu, you talked about all of this stuff. We are going to see it live in action, but what is this DOM? This DOM right here, this DOM right here, this DOM right here, right? What is this DOM? DOM is nothing but the document object model. It is a Lightning Web Component, or rather a modern web standard programming interface. All right, this is how and why you are able to use your Lightning Web Component as like HTML, JS, CSS in the console, in the document. What is document? The document object is the global object present on the browser. So if you have, let's say, if I go here to our code, let's open any random code. You see this code right here that you have, this is injected to the DOM, the document object model, right? And when the DOM gets this, it is going to basically line by line create a hierarchy, create a tree structure. Okay, I have to create a parent tag. Inside that there should be an article tag. Inside the article tag there should be a div tag. Inside this div there should be a header. Inside the header there should be another div, another span, lightning icon, span. So this hierarchy that you see is going to be injected as is into your document object, so that the browser can access it, understand it, and accordingly take action wherever possible. So that is what the meaning of DOM is here, right? So when I say when the component is created, you cannot interact with the DOM yet, meaning you still do not have all your methods or buttons to be clicked. You don't have that availability yet. When can you do that? You can only do that here after the rendered callback is called. All right, this is where you are saying that, okay, my Lightning component is ready and I can access it or play with it or mess with it. I can do it everything but here. Nothing even here. You cannot touch it here also, right? That's why before it is completely available for any kind of use case, you have to prep things, you have to show things, you have to make sure everything works fine. You do that here on the connected callback. Make sense? All right, so what we'll do is we'll go to VS Code and we are going to do a very small demo of how this hierarchy, or maybe, you know, how things are getting called. So what I'll do is I'll create a new Lightning Web Component, and let's say I'll call it Lifecycle Hooks. All right, great. And here I have a HTML wherein I'll just show a username, let's say, and let's go in here and I'll define this username as Subhashini. All right, cool, done, great. I also want to have a function. I'll say handle name change. All right, and in this name change function, I basically say this dot username, and I'm going to change this name to Vinod. All right, that's it. Cool. I want to use this variable on my HTML. I'm going to go in here and I'll just put it here in the binding variable. Perfect. So far so good. Let's go into our meta file and expose this and create a target for it. The target is going to be homepage. Or maybe, I don't know, app page. Let me see why is this throwing an error. Let's see the autocomplete. Lightning homepage. All right, cool, done. Deploy. Let's go to Safari. Let's edit this page and remove this component here and put it down below. Because this is done, we'll look into a new thing now. All right, let's go here. Let's move this guy down below. And now if I go down here, Lifecycle Hooks, this is a home page, right? What have I mentioned home page. Yes, it is still not deployed. Okay, deployed now. Let's say save. I'll have to refresh my page so that I see the new component. Refresh. And now if I go to custom, Lifecycle Hooks is available. I'll just drop it here. Okay, Subhashini's name is showing up here. All right, great. Let's just save. Let's go back, and here I'll just create a card, or let's, yeah. All right, and I'll just put this particular variable value here. Done. Deploy. Lifecycle Hooks explainer. Refresh. So I should now see a white screen with a name here. All right, perfect. It is showing up here, but I don't like the spacing, so I'm just going to wrap it in a p tag, and I'm going to just put a class. You already know what it is. SLDSM around medium. All right, done. BOM. All right, BOM. So always see hyphen in between. This is the SLDS class. This is the type of styling you want to put, and what is the dimension of it. So SLDS margin around medium, around small, medium, large, that will come here. Okay, if it is two words, you have to use an underscore, and it will be segregated by a hyphen. That's the shortcut to understanding how to write SLDS classes. Cool. I have this class ready, deployed, fine. Let's refresh, and this is refresh. Subhashini looks better now with the spacing. Great. Now I'm going to use my JS file to understand how the component is loading. See, right now what you see is the component got loaded, but what really happened behind the scene in the sequence, we are going to look at that, and that basically will help you understand the life cycle. All right, so first things first, if I go to my keynote, what is the first thing? Constructor. So I'm going to pull in the constructor. Okay, I'll take the constructor and I'll save it here. I am going to use console logs. Okay, constructor is called. Let's say save. Normally, see, don't think about, okay, I have to do this every time. This is just for you to understand the sequence. You don't have to write this code anytime. The constructor is like, inbuilt. It is inherited from the parent Lightning component. You don't have to rewrite it. All right, so you can just understand, okay, this is the first thing that gets executed. That's all. Okay, so the constructor is called. Perfect. The next thing is the connected callback. So I'm going to type in the connected callback, and these are all functions or methods. So I'll have to use the bracket. All right, console.log, and I'm going to say connected callback is fired. Save. All right, what's the next thing? Rendered callback. I'll put a rendered callback console, and this will basically be rendered callback is called. Done. I'm going to put the disconnected callback. Console.log component is done with what it was supposed to do. All right, meaning you kind of are done with it, so proceed with any kind of cleanup. All right, I'll put the error callback, but this is not going to basically run right now because we don't have a child component. All right, I'll put a console.log stack plus trace. All right, just putting a debug log. I know this will not run right now, but our primary idea is to look at these guys right here. Okay, let's first of all see and try deploying. Does it deploy? Taking some time. Deployed fine. All right, now what I want to do is I'll go back here, open my inspect element, go to the console, delete all the stuff right now, and I'm going to say refresh, and let's see what happens. Okay, so we'll look at the consoles that we have. See, constructor is called, has already come, but immediately you have received an error. Right now there's a problem here. What's the problem? It says error during LWC component constructor phase. Super must be called in derived constructor before accessing the this or returning non-object. What is this error? It does not tell you anything, but I'm going to tell you about it. Right now the thing is, people who know about Java, if you're going to extend any class, right, this is a class that you're using and you're extending another class. Now here, what's the class? Lightning element. This is the source of everything. This is why your LWC is working as it is supposed to, because of this class, right? So when you are extending something and when you're calling the constructor of a child class, which is extending another class, you have to ensure that you are calling the constructor of the parent class also. And the way to do is it by using the super keyword. That is what was missing. That's what the error says. It says super must be called in derived constructor. Why derived? Because you are deriving this class by using extending capabilities of lightning element. Okay, again, don't think that you have to do this every time when you write an LWC, just for your understanding. Okay, you have to call the lightning element constructor, then you have to continue your work. That's all. Okay, so it is saying you have to use it, because if you don't, you will not be able to access the this property, this dot username we did, right? The this keyword, it will not work. That's the reason. But if you notice, the constructor got called, meaning it got called but then it failed here because the constructor loading failed. Make sense? Refresh. We have deployed it again. Let's go back. And now if you notice, as soon as I refreshed, let me refresh it one more time. So you'll see that the constructor is called first, connected callback is second, rendered callback is fired. This is where you see everything loaded here. Make sense? All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write I'm going to call this function from a button, right? The handle name change. I'm going to create a button here, right? Title is equal to change name. Done. On click, I want to call my function. What is my function? Handle name change. Let's say deploy. Now when this button is clicked, handle name change will be called, which is this method right here, and it is supposed to update the value of the username to Vinod, meaning on the screen this value will be updated from Subhashini to Vinod. That's the idea, right? Let's see how the system behaves. Let's go refresh. Let's say refresh here. Now as part of the initial loading, okay, the button is not showing up. Let me see. There's the title. I think it should be label. Save, deploy. So you can always take this from the SLDS library. I mean, like the lightning button component developer guide. You don't have to second guess, just take a sample from there. So when I load the component, button is here, everything is here, constructor was called, connected callback was fired, rendered callback was fired. Perfect. Now when I click on the change name, just notice what happens down below. Change name. See, name got updated from Subhashini to Vinod. Nothing changed, only the rendered callback was fired again, meaning component has re-rendered. Make sense? That's what rendering means. That's where rendered callback is getting executed again, meaning after this is after things are re-rendered, this is going to be called, and then again your component is available to be accessible, meaning again you can access the component. Make sense? All right, and based on the sequence of how it has shown up, you can kind of say that the constructor gets called first, the connected callback is next, the rendered callback is next, but the rendered callback is going to be called more times. All right, more times as in whenever you re-render your component, whenever change name happens, all right, it will get called. All right, if I were to go to another tab, let's see if I were to show you that. Or let me just say, if I click on home, yes. So if you see, when I click on the home button, right, that's when the disconnected callback is done. Component is done with what it was supposed to do. This is coming from the disconnected callback, meaning I have clicked somewhere else. I'm going to go ahead and do something else. That's where the component is disconnected. All right, if I click on the setup and I try to go to setup, basically the component will be done. Because it is opened in the new tab, I'm not able to show you the disconnected callback here, but essentially that's what happens when you change your order of execution, or the flow of execution, and you are not in the LWC framework anymore. You are going outside. You're going to do something else. All right. Not sure if the system is moving slow, but yeah, that's the whole idea. All right, let's go back home. Yeah, cool. All right, this imported from permission set true is not a log that I have put, so don't worry about that. Himanshu, where is this coming from? Not coming from our code. Okay, this is what we were focusing on. All right, great. That was all about the lifecycle hooks. I hope it is clear in terms of the order of how things work. Okay, now in a nutshell, right, what is the lifecycle hook? Constructor, connected callback, rendered callback, disconnected callback, error callback. This is the sequence also. So tomorrow if an interviewer asks you, can you explain me the lifecycle hooks and what is used for what, this is your guideline, right? So always think of this example. The actor is going to do what? It is the actor is going to read the script, prep behind the scene in the green room, that is constructor. Okay, they will enter the stage, okay, but still not ready to execute or ready to perform, connected callback. Set up everything and get ready for the performance, rendered callback. Once ready for the performance, do the performance and then exit the stage, disconnected callback. Forgot the line, messed up, error callback. All right, so initialize the component is the constructor's duty. The DOM becomes available to do setup, still not rendered, but do setup. So more like loading data, accessing certain attributes, connected callback. Any kind of server side call you want to do, any kind of data you want to fetch before loading the component, connected callback. Everything has been loaded and then you want to run some sort of logic, rendered callback, or it will inherently run whenever you re-render any variable. Once you are done with everything, you want to do any kind of cleanup, disconnected callback, catch errors and show it gracefully in the UI, error callback. Makes sense? Nothing fancy. Only thing I would want you guys to be interested in is the connected callback, because in real LWC scenarios you are going to use connected callback to load data from the server or do any kind of information. Because constructor you don't have to write explicitly, disconnected you don't need to write, error callback you don't need to write explicitly most of the times, and rendered callback you only have to write in case you want to do any specific set of handling on rendering. If not, then this is also not needed. Only the connected callback is what you are going to use most of the times. Make sense? Great. Now, in a nutshell, again, the lifecycle hook is here, but we need to understand when it runs and the common use cases, right? I've told you this, but just to verify, and you can take a screenshot of it and you can paste it on your for interview preparations. You can take a screenshot or you can just revise. Constructor is the lifecycle hook. This is going to run when the component instance is loaded, right? If I were to show you what it means, the constructor thing, basically, see, I'll show you the DOM thing. We are here, right? If I go to sources, or let me not go to sources, let's go to elements. See this entire doc type HTML that has been generated automatically. Did we write HTML code? No, we wrote Lightning LWC code. So when I refresh this entire HTML body gets created. This is basically your DOM. Okay, so here if you notice, if I were to point at a certain element, it is going to take you there. You see, this is a div. Inside that div, there's a slot. That slot is supposed to keep the name Subhashini. So did we create a slot? No. The DOM is kind of structuring our LWC template in such a way so that it can be in a tree grid structure. See this tree? From here you are going inside and all of this stuff, and then going outside, all of this stuff. That's basically the hierarchy based of making sure that the LWC that you have written in this code is equivalently made a HTML template for the browser to understand and render. So lightning card we use lightning button, we use this username. So accordingly how to handle it, the DOM understands that once we are once we are doing it properly. Okay, that's about the DOM. Now constructor is basically running when the component instance is loaded, and you can use this for any kind of initializing variables, but not really needed. You can initialize it on the global level also. No DOM related logic should be set up here. Okay, DOM related logic comes here. So connected callback is what runs when it runs when the component is inserted into the DOM. Okay, so consider it like you have a you have a chocolate in your hand, all right, and you are kind of unwrapping it. Now you have the wrapper in your hand. The wrapper has to be dumped into the dustbin, right? So the chocolate is loaded, as in the chocolate has been unwrapped, but for the wrapper to be inserted into the dustbin, you have to use the connected callback. I hope it was a very, very weird example, but just hope it's clear. You are going to throw the wrapper into the dustbin, and when it falls inside, that DOM is basically the dustbin and the component is inserted into it. That's what the job of connected callback is. And when this happens, what do you want to do? You want to fetch data from Apex, you want to set timers, you want to add event listeners, all of that stuff you can do here. meaning I want to do 10 things before the user is able to start working on the component. Those 10 things has to be done here. That's why this part is the important part. Sorry. This part is the important part. All right. Then what is rendered callback? Every time the component is rendered or any variable is rendered or re-rendered, or it will not be pre, it will be re-rendered, it is going to manipulate the DOM if needed and trigger the UI logic post-render. Now you see, I'll just show you that in the HTML. This is right now Subhashini, correct? When I click on the change name, see, this got changed as Vinod. Who took care of this? The rendered callback took care of manipulating the DOM and updating the value. Makes sense? So any kind of DOM manipulation needed, you can use it in the rendered callback, and it will automatically trigger if any kind of re-rendering or rendering happens. Disconnected callback, when the component is removed from the DOM. Now, when you are supposed to go to another tab, right? From here, if you go to accounts or contacts, do you still need this component here? No, because you are going to see the accounts view. So your entire DOM will get re-rendered, right? When it does, it is going to remove this from the DOM element. So when I say home, it is going to go back to home and then again reload it. But if I were to go to some other application, see, the entire DOM got reloaded. Now do you see your component here anymore? No. Okay, you see it because it's here, but if I go to accounts and if I open a account record, there's nothing visible here. Contacts, let's look at all contacts. Okay, there's nothing visible here. Is that so? Yeah, okay. So when I say Andy Young, it opens the Andy Young's related DOM. Now your component is not visible. Where is your component? It is somewhere inside the home button, but is it sitting in the DOM right now? No. It will only sit back in the DOM when you go back and click on the home button. It's loaded now. It is now sitting on the DOM. That's basically the job of the disconnected callback, that takes care of removing and adding the component back in the DOM. But the disconnected will take care of removing only. All right. And if you have child components, in that case, if the child throws an error, the error callback is going to run. All right. And what do you want to use it for? For any kind of fallback. For example, the site is down for maintenance. You see that page, right? What happens? When is that triggered? Whenever the error callback is called. Make sense? Perfect. All right, great. That's all I think I wanted to cover as part of this tutorial. In the next one, we'll understand the life cycle of a parent-child component. All right, great. I hope that made sense. Just put in the comment hooks make sense. And yeah, that should be all for this tutorial. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.